Good evening to us all. Good day to us all. How are we doing? I hope we are all doing well. Okay. Um, a big thank you to each and every one of us who made it throughout this webinar from day one through to today's webinar. A very big thank you to Raphael for the opportunity to moderate today. A very big thank you to all our noble partners and able team who made this webinar possible. A very big thank you to all our distinguished speakers from day one, day two, which their presentation and positive impact were exclusively amazing. And yet today, we will be more enlightened by our esteemed speakers. I want to use this opportunity to appreciate Dr. Genevieve, who happens to be my mentor and also a partner for the NIS webinar. For the sake of our first time participants who may ask, what is NIS? Simply put, NIS or the acronym NIS is Network of International Students Webinar, with the main target of empowering the youth in Africa and fostering a dynamic network between students whom we believe to be leaders of the future. The Network of International Students Webinar Series NIS is one of the main projects of the GMAG Group, founded by Raphael Sochuma Ajana. Once again, thank you to each and every one of us for participating previously, yesterday, and today. My name is Ruby Ampafo, your moderator for today's webinar, and I will hand over to my co-moderator, Amit Ashika, to continue. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ruby. I hope everybody can hear me. I need
Yes, we
confirmation.
can. Yes,
Okay, thank
please,
you
we
so
can.
much. So my name is Ashika Wanta Hamid, and I will be co-moderating with Ruby. My duty here is to introduce our first three speakers for today, and I'm really excited to be here. Thank you so much. So I'll go ahead and introduce our first speaker. Our first speaker today is Mr. Nimdi Odiru. Mr. Nimdi Odiru is the Group Managing Director of the York Group, joining the company in September 2024. A distinguished leader in the African technology and innovation landscape, Mr. Nimbi has held prominent positions in both the private and the public sector. His private sector roles include Head of West Africa for Google and CEO of Siemens Research, while his public contribution includes serving as a technical consultant for Nigeria's Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, and as an advisor on innovation and digitalization for the Kenyan government. Mr. Nimbi holds a Bachelor of Science in Theoretical Physics from the University of Nairobi and advanced qualification from MIT Sloan School of Management. Known for his commitment to leveraging technology for societal improvement, he continues to drive meaningful change through his leadership. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. I notice nobody's got their video on, so I'll keep my video off as well. Um, do I just rock right up and start talking, or is there something else that happens after this?
Okay, so Mr. Newby, you can also feel free to to open up your video as the speaker for today's session.
Okay.
Okay, and you can also share your screen if preferred. Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much. Um, so when Raphael invited me to speak, it was a signal honor actually, because it's not every day that one gets to talk to young people who are going to become essentially the leaders of tomorrow. And tomorrow, I think, is the key challenge. Today is a super important day for me, Friday the 13th, because today I've just had a new son. The name is, well, today is when he came home. So, and so it's a super big thing to be thinking about the future. So for me, thinking about the future and what it's going to be like, not in my world that's drawing to an end, but in his world and what it's going to be like, has been extremely interesting and exciting to think about over the last couple of weeks, when I was told about this speaking engagement. So I think what I'll do is I'll tell you a little bit about the world from which I came and what I see as the world that we're going towards. So I've been around the block a couple of decades. Um, I started out my professional career in about 2000 or thereabouts, right after my master's at MIT. And the world seemed full of opportunity. Everything was up for grabs. But one thing that was clear to me was that I needed to be in Africa doing something. And so I started out very early in starting an internet service provider. And that was the big new thing, being able to connect to the internet. And at the time, the people who had access to the internet had a tremendous advantage in the business world because you knew the prices of things. You could make deals halfway across the world. You could order things from China and from the US and come and sell them at 10 times the price. You could find out technical manuals that other people didn't have. That was the age when people would download music, burn it to CDs, and sell the CDs. A CD, if I don't know if you know what that is, a CD is a compact disc. It doesn't make a lot of sense nowadays in a world of Spotify and Netflix, but that was a big thing then. And so having internet access was a key business competitive advantage. And I was a chap who was providing people with internet access. And as you can well imagine, I made a pretty decent fortune from doing that. And then came along the whole open source thing. And not so long ago, almost nobody used Linux. But if you knew Linux and if you knew how to deploy and support Linux, you were a super big fish. And because I knew Linux and because I knew how to deploy and support it and write drivers and make it connect to different things, just because of that little skill, which came from the internet, I was able to land significant commercial opportunities across the East African market. So, for instance, Kenya Airways, their very first website, I built it for the largest newspaper across East Africa is called The Nation. The Nation. So they were moving from a mainframe computer to the PC to PCs, and because you happen to know Linux, you got to get that chance. And invariably, what I have learned is that this ability to identify key trends in time, just before they become mainstream, gives you an incredible competitive advantage. And we're at the cusp of yet another revolution in the way that the world works. And right now, if you do the right things, you position yourself sorry. Well, so if you position yourself correctly at this particular juncture in history, there's a lot that's going to happen. And so let's look at Africa for a while and just think about where we are now. Look at a bit of our history and see where we are going. If it used to be that in order to make a telephone call, you'd have to talk to Ghana Posts or Kenya Posts, and they would give you a landline. And that's how only the very elite had a telephone in their homes. When mobile telephony became available, it completely overcame land telephony, and now everybody's got a mobile phone. In fact, so much so that for most people, they don't actually have a landline in their home. They've only got mobile phones. And 73% of Africans have got a mobile phone. Not a smartphone, but they've got a feature phone or some form of communications. And so this has given us a quantum leap forward in terms of connectivity. If you look at internet access across our continent, you notice exactly the same thing. Whereas if you look at, say, the US, most of their internet is cable because it was built on top of the telephone network. And so in their evolution, they started out with telephones in their homes, then they got cable, so they got TV by cable, then they got internet by cable. For most Africans, we didn't have phones in our homes. We moved straight to mobile telephony, and almost all our internet access is wireless. So we managed over a very short period of time to get to the very best technology by doing this leap. In fact, if you look at it, the internet speeds in Kenya, for instance, are better than, I think we're the third or fourth in the world. So there's Korea, South Korea up there, then there's Japan, then China, and I think then there's Kenya. So at least in the case of Kenya, we have leaped forward because we've got this opportunity. Now, we sit at the cusp of, as I said, yet another revolution in how things are happening. And this is artificial intelligence. In thinking through what artificial intelligence means and how it works, the risks, the threats, the opportunities, it's clearly a super huge thing. And the people who master it early are going to have a tremendous competitive advantage. And I think I'll talk a little bit about this and talk about what it means for every aspect of our lives. So, I've been fortunate to have worked in government. In Nigeria, I worked in developing election technology. I invite you to to have a look on YouTube about how that went. I've just put my LinkedIn profile again. Kindly please connect. But the point I was making was, I think, about artificial intelligence. So having worked in government, the one thing that you need to know about government is that for the most part, it's the place where good ideas go to die. So, and I think that in many ways, this is a systemic, structural problem. And it's structural for both internal reasons and because of how the world works. The world, unfortunately, sees Africa as a resource continent. And even when they look at the future of Africa, you're going to hear things like Africa is going to be the youngest continent, the rest of the world is aging, Europe has low fertility rates, China's fertility rates are going down. Only Africa seems to be young and thriving and growing. And the way they look at that is the future workforce is Africa. This particular worldview is not Africans talking about Africa. It is other people talking about Africa as a future workforce for their economies. And that's a problem right there that, unfortunately, we've got to address. Yes, we are going to be a young population, but that advantage should be Africa's and not other economies. And we've got to restructure how we think about the African challenge, not by looking at governments, but by, I think, the private sector and the non-profit sector, African-centric, have got to begin to drive that conceptual change. Now, let me tie this into that whole AI thing that I was talking about, and how this, as at an individual and at a societal level, represents in the military. Let me try to put this in context. In the military, they periodically have what they call an RMA, a revolution in military affairs. And how a revolution in military affairs works is that the people who have steel, the people who have iron, beat the people who have bronze. They take their land, they take their resources, they enslave them. The people who have steel beat the people who have got iron because it's a better weapon, it's a better tool. Each of these changes, from bronze to iron, iron to steel, steel to gunpowder, represents a revolution in military affairs. So each time that one of those things happens, there's a dramatic shift in the structure of in the military architecture of the world, in the structure of power in the world. And so the people who have got gunpowder beat everybody who doesn't have gunpowder. And then the people who've got a machine gun beat everybody who doesn't have a machine gun. In this case, that was the Gatling gun. And if you actually look through history, you discover that a large part of Britain's colonization of the world, the earth, was largely due to improvements in industry and in military technology. When they lost that edge, when military technology became more democratically available, their capacity to hold on to land and to wealth diminished with it. And then came the nuclear bomb, which has only been used once, and that put the evolution of military power in stasis for a while, because everybody agreed that it was such a terrible weapon that nobody would use it, and it pretty much froze the military and power architecture of the world. And with it came these institutions, the Bretton Woods, the all the things that happened after the Second World War. But there's a new RMA currently in progress. A new revolution in military affairs is emerging. And this is driven by three things. One, it's driven by miniaturization. It's driven by artificial intelligence, and it's driven by widespread connectivity. How does that work? If you've paid attention to the war in Ukraine, you'll have noticed that there's been a proliferation of what are called first-person view drones, right? So a first-person view drone is essentially a small drone with ammunition attached to it and somebody who controls it from a distance, and they can crash it into something. What's the economic impact of this technological evolution? To put it in context for you, a tank, a normal tank, right, armor, costs up to $100 million. A drone that can carry a payload of say 1 or 2 kilos. In fact, let me just look for that for you. A drone that can carry 1 or 2 kilos costs about $200. So essentially, by deploying a $200 to $400 drone, you can destroy a $10 to $15 million piece of equipment. It dramatically changes the equation of economic power and military power, that parity. It used to be that military power, economic power were associated with each other. But this new RMA dramatically changes how power works. I was going to look for a quick drone for you, just to show you what this means. And how much it is. So, well, go to Alibaba and look. You'll see there about $300, $230. All right. So I think this is it. I'll just put it in chat. So I've just put it in chat. So think about it. So for $200, I can deliver a bomb of 3 to 5 kilograms. What does this mean to air forces? So you wanted to buy an F-35, you wanted to buy something like that. It's tens of millions of dollars. Insurgent groups, citizens can now essentially build air forces for thousands of dollars and not millions of dollars. This has got this change in the architecture of power and the democratization of the means of violence has got tremendous long-term impacts on what Africa is going to look like going forward. Recently, still talking about the security architecture of our continent, I think from this, the key takeaway that you need to understand is that in 20 to 30 years, the current borders of Africa are not going to look anything like they look like now. I think you can pretty much take that as given. I think there's going to be a new emergence of organic structures around Africa that more closely match ethnic, geographical, cultural, and historical boundaries. If you look at the world, there are only a couple of continents where you've got borders that are a straight line, right? So Africa is one of those places. If you look at, say, the African borders are also, most of them are straight lines. And those straight lines are entirely artificial, which means that part of Africa's challenge is that we've not yet become accustomed to those lines, and we have not yet managed to build nations or states properly, because our boundaries have nothing to do with our history, with our culture, with our languages, with our ethnicity, with nothing. They have nothing to do with anything. They were, in the case of Kenya and Uganda, the line dividing the two countries was drawn by a 22-year-old in Whitehall in the UK, in London, right? Somebody in the colonial office drew a line, and that became the border. And this is preposterous. I mean, in one instance, the line between Kenya and Uganda actually split one family into two. And this family, one brother became the vice president in Kenya, and the other one became the vice president in Uganda. So you can tell that these borders aren't going to stay. So that's a significant future contingency that any futurist looking at Africa must contend with. And it does mean that I think we're going to see an upsurge in violence. And it's something that the governments are beginning to address. And one of the ways that governments who are cognizant of these challenges are beginning to address them is by making borders meaningless, by forming larger regional blocks. If you look at the recent history of West Africa and what's happening around ECOWAS, I think you're beginning to see some of that dynamic begin to play out. And if you look at the recent youth unrest across Kenya and how it is spreading across our continent, it's not quite the color revolutions or the Arab Spring. It's something entirely different, and it seems to have caught on. Just to give, I'm rambling, and please excuse me. I will get back on topic. The way I know Ghana is about to have elections, and this is a super fantastic petri dish of what's happening across our continent. I'm going to be studying it extremely closely to see how those dynamics work out. But here's how it works. So the traditional way that politicians have managed to acquire power is essentially by divide and rule. They're our people and they're their people. And our people has tended to be, across most of Africa, has been on an ethnic basis. There's a particular ethnicity that has a larger number, and they all vote as a bloc. So what Obama did something slightly different. Instead of dividing the polity along ethnic lines, he divided them along age lines, right? He divided them among the youth against the old established elite. And they're more youth, and he won. In other places, if you look at where communism happens, socialism, they divide it along economic lines, but there's always a division, which makes for, so the newest political activity is going to be finding new ways of dividing the polity that gives you a majority. So that's essentially what politics is all about. But so when we are looking at the security architecture of a future Africa over the next 20 to 30 years, we'll begin to see that certain aspects of division are beginning to disappear. Education, I think, is going to be one of the key differentiators or discriminators that's going to evaporate. And the reason why, I think, is precisely because of artificial intelligence. Now, if you look at Ghanaian society, and I'll talk, I have lived and worked in Ghana, so I have a decent sense. It's really partitioned along lines of either historical privilege or education, right? And so education tends to be the discriminator between the elite and the others, the vast, the great unwashed, if you will. But there's something that's about to happen. If you've tried using a large language model, right? And I invite you to have a look at running things like ChatGPT, not on the web, but running it locally on your computer. If you want to do that, I'll invite you to look at olama.com, I think it is. You can install this and you'll be able to download an AI that runs locally on your computer, right? So everybody can now have their own personal AI. You don't have to talk to ChatGPT. You don't have to talk to Claude or Gemini. You can run some of this stuff locally at no cost, and you should. Now, what does that mean? The fact that you can run a large language model locally on your computer, or very soon on your phone. It means that for people who know how to use it, you have got access, literally, to all the world's knowledge at your fingertips. You can ask anything and get an answer in a language and in a way that best makes sense to you. And the answer that it gives you would not be precisely the same answer it gives somebody else, because they would have asked that same question in a different way. And so there's like global, ubiquitous uniqueness. The answer you get is not the same as anybody else's because the question you asked is not asked in exactly the same way, even if it's about the same topic. In essence, a person who's got a large language model that they use on a regular basis has got Einstein sitting in their pocket or on their laptop. And this gives you a competitive advantage that you must, well, it would be ridiculous not to capitalize on that competitive advantage to create economic value for yourself and for the people around you, to become more productive, more creative, more valuable as a human being. Now, unfortunately, the way technology works, there's something called the technology diffusion model, and I invite you to look at it. For the first 30% of the time, which is when all the economic value is used, only approximately 5 to 9% of the population actively use that technology. Note the key thing that I said: when all the economic value is derived, only 5 to 9% of the population actively use that new technology. And we're at exactly that point in time now. So every aspect of your life is about to change over the next 5 years. All the economic value is going to be derived by between 5 to 9%. But of course, there's a normal distribution around that. So you can imagine that not everybody in that 5 to 9% will derive equal value. But if you apply yourself intelligently, and I guess you will, I mean, you are attending this conference, then there's a significant opportunity. Let's talk about what that means. I mean, there are changes happening in terms of energy and the introduction of lithium and Africa's large lithium reserves and what that means. But let's focus on this narrow piece for just a little bit more. So if you look at education, right, there's this super interesting piece of old research. I mean, it's 1984. It's called the two sigma problem, right? I've always found this fascinating, right? Isn't it curious that most of the people in Harvard, it's an extremely competitive university to get into, tend to come from extremely wealthy families? Isn't it odd? If you look at the history of any of the sciences, if you look at, well, what was once my field, physics, you notice that there's Prince Niels Bohr, there's Prince Louis de Broglie, right? You notice that invariably it seems that science was pushed forward by the aristocracy. Why? Isn't that curious? Well, if IQ is evenly distributed across the population, what gave the aristocracy that edge in terms of pushing knowledge forward? A lot of the previous answer used to be that they were the ones who had leisure to actually think and understand and study these things. But I think the two sigma problem as articulated by Benjamin Bloom gives us something very interesting. Most extremely wealthy people tend to have tutors. They get one-on-one instruction. So if you look at the famous composers, Mozart, Beethoven, whoever you like, they tended to work in a court, right? And they tended to teach as well as part of their duties, which means they gave one-on-one instruction. And those people tended, therefore, to perform extraordinarily well. Well, what Bloom finds is that one-on-one instruction can improve a person's performance by 2 standard deviations. It means that one-on-one instruction can take a perfectly normal, average student and make them perform in the top 10% if they move 2 standard deviations, right? Isn't that fascinating? Well, tie that in with the fact that you now have large language models, which can answer your question exactly how you would understand it. And if you take that adaptive learning, large language models, ubiquitous communications, Africa, I think, properly managed, and if there's sufficient gumption and risk appetite, we can take a quantum leap forward in terms of the quality of education that we deliver to our citizens. But there's something else as well. Since artificial intelligence is a productivity multiplier, what it means is that the average doctor who spends 7 or 8 years learning their craft can, and this I think you can find has been proven that large language models, vision large language models, can perform better than the average human at vision tasks, right? And they can perform, if you're looking at what happened over the last 3 days with the introduction of the O1 model by ChatGPT, it can now perform better than 80% of PhDs, right? In at least mathematics, physics, and chemistry. So it's capable of reasoning at that level. So you now have this capacity. Most people are going to ask AI to write an email for them. But can you think of amazing, clever, economically useful things to apply this technology to? And I think you should. And you've got about, I would guess, another 7 to 8 months to do something about it. Otherwise, that boat has sailed. But to tell you about some interesting experiments. So this idea of you've got bottled competence, canned expertise, you've got genius on demand, right? You've got infinite creativity by merely asking. What can we do with this? We can do amazing things. There's an experiment we're running. Well, it's still in progress. It occurred to me that, look, we've got what we call clinical officers. These are people who are essentially trained as nurses. And because we don't have enough doctors, they're they're spread out all over the country, and they're the first, they deliver primary care. What about if we gave them a medically trained large language model and let them use that in their practice in the villages? And we just happen to have some open source large language models. Hugging Face. Go look on Hugging Face, and I think you'll find that you can get essentially a doctor in your pocket, right? So this is a running experiment to see if by provisioning clinical officers with medically trained large language models, there's any difference in the quality of care. I think there will be. I hope there will be. It would be very disappointing if it's not. But it's a new way of delivering what I hope is awesome healthcare at no extra cost in manpower or time. It gives us that quantum leap forward. And there are dozens of these opportunities. I think I've just spoken briefly about the opportunity and the geopolitical security and power architecture of Africa that you are going to go into as you become larger and older professionals, and that the younger amongst us will have to lead. It's a tumultuous and troubled time coming. It's also a time of great opportunity in terms of the quality of life, the availability of expertise. Expertise has now become a commodity. It's a dramatic shift in our education system. And I think Africa will lead in this. We are so far behind and with so little infrastructure and such little, there's still vested interests in the old apprentice model, right? I mean, so when I went to school, it was super important who your professor was, because if you studied under a Nobel Prize winner, you were likely going to be a Nobel Prize winner. So there was a deep struggle to be a student of some professors. I think that time, that medieval apprenticeship model, I think that time has passed. I think the age of cloistered ivory tower research is also going by the board, because if you can get chat GPT to reason at PhD level, then the value of a PhD diminishes fundamentally. And why spend? I haven't thought that through, but you've got a lifetime to think these issues through. And I know it's going to be a super exciting future for all of you. And I think my time is exactly up. I've not covered most of what I wanted to talk about because I rambled and wandered, but I'd wanted to keep it unstructured just so that we had this stream of consciousness going, and I hope I haven't overbored you. I'll hand over to the coordinator to take over from this point.
Thank you so much, sir. You did very good. And we can have another section for you only because your section was really informational. Thank you so much. With the time, we will be taking 2 questions at most, so we can head over to our next speaker. You can put your question in the comment section, or you raise your hand and you're mute and ask your question. Thank you. Okay, there's a question.
Okay. So I see one. How should future African leaders prepare for emerging technologies that could impact internet accessibility already being implemented? You know, I wish I had like some quick answers. These are interesting research problems to which we need to apply ourselves. But I do think that this is going to happen. I think that everybody will soon be connected. I think that you remember I spoke about the democratization of coercive means, right? I with $10,000, I could build myself an air force to rival any African country's air force, right? It means that every businessman could essentially build himself an army. The way we negotiate and discuss with each other is going to change. It does mean, and this is unfortunately always the case, that society stratifies. And the people with the knowledge tend to form a clique to exploit everybody else. But I think that the durability of those cliques is under threat, and it's under pressure. So competitive advantage isn't going to last. If you make $1 billion over the next 3 years, your ability to continue to do so is going to evaporate. So Elon Musk and Starlink are trying to capture the world, but guess what? China has launched a Starlink equivalent. Russia has launched a Starlink equivalent. Nigeria is getting in the game. I am so proud of Nigeria for this. They outside of Nigeria's cultural dominance of our continent, they also seem to. I'm very pro-African. They, despite the complications of Nigeria, they still occasionally do the right things, and launching the satellite cluster that they did was one of the right things. Incidentally, did you know that you can get 20-meter resolution satellite imagery for free across the African continent? And if you go to Amazon, I think it's called AWS. They provide it for free, but it's off a bunch of Nigerian satellites that Nigeria forgot to manage. And that's where that data is coming from. So this communications monopoly that Starlink is trying to, that's why they're pushing so hard, because competition is hot on their heels. So they're trying to buy as much visibility and loyalty as possible, as quickly as they can, before everybody else comes online. But I think that communications is going to become a commodity, and in much the same way that commodity things happen, it's going to happen across all of Africa. So we're never going to become prisoners in either the Western ecosystem or the Chinese, because we've got some African initiatives that are doing something about it. It does mean that there's going to be, and there already is, turmoil in the telco space. Working in a telco used to be a good thing. It was a guaranteed high income job. But you can notice the upset that's happening. Starlink is upsetting every telco. So there's that happening. I don't know if I've answered that question. I don't have answers. I'm also a participant, just like you.
That's true. Okay, so Mr. Ultimate, I hope your question have been answered. If it has, then please confirm it in the comment section. I wish you could take the second question from Mr. John Nathaniel. Can we go ahead?
Sure.
Okay. The second question, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. It is good to have a strong security in Africa, but our security sectors in Africa are divided based on religion, tribe, and also political parties. Now, my question is that how the security sectors in Africa can be guaranteed when they have been when they have divisions among them. I'm sure that's the question. Please, did you get the question?
I did.
Okay.
I think you can expect even more division. And I think that because owning an army or owning weapons used to be deeply restrained. You know what? If you try to run Olama, right? And I invite you to, please go and have a look. And you'll see that they're models, right? Olama. I'm checking on the internet as I do this, right? And what you will see is that there are certain models called uncensored models, right? Now, if you go to ChatGPT and you say, teach me how to make an explosive, right? ChatGPT will say, I'm afraid I can't help you commit a crime or something. But an uncensored model, and here you can see a large number of them. Just go and type uncensored. Let me give you a link. There's nothing secret here. I mean, you could have searched for it and found it. You'll notice that people break the security of available open source models by training them not to have those inhibitions. And then they're able to answer any question that you like. Now, and this is broadly available in the tech community, right? So, and it's a serious problem because as these large language models become more capable of reasoning, of design, of writing software, it means that people are now using large language models to create viruses, and people are using large language models to create defenses, cybersecurity, manage rules, detect patterns, and counter the increasing number of viruses. What does it mean to weapons? It used to be things like how to make Novichok, right? Used to be closely guarded national secrets, right? Chemical weapons, biological weapons, nuclear weapons, whatever, strategy. You had to go to war college to learn strategy. It now means that with ChatGPT, Claude, and large language models available to everybody has got a Clausewitz. Clausewitz was a significant strategic thinker in military strategy. Everybody has a Clausewitz in their pockets. Everybody has got essentially a national quality laboratory, a state state-driven laboratory quality research capabilities in their pockets, things are going to change. The old architecture of power is evolving, and we can see it happening. We can see how things that would have terrified nations 3 years ago, say sanctions, right? When they sanctioned Sudan, it was pretty much the death knell of that country. Now, if they sanction Iran, it's business as usual. If the whole of the West sanctions Russia, it is pretty much meaningless because monopolies of the old type are disappearing. The underlying assumptions are being questioned. And the same thing will happen in Africa. Who'd have thought that Niger would become the fastest growing economy in Africa in the start of last year? It was preposterous. Who'd have thought that Burkina Faso would become the most highly regarded country in Africa early last year? But if you look across our continent, these two nations are looked upon with awe. In fact, the unfortunate side effect is that they've set a terrible example that lots of other people are asking if they can do the same. Now, this is not good. We'd much rather gradual transition in order to attain stability, but I don't think that we can count on it. And I don't think that the old holders of power are going to be the same in 5 to 7 years. But you're going to be living this and you're going to be shaping this. But I think I want to leave something else. You're not future leaders. You stop thinking about future leaders. Future leaders is for losers. You're leaders now. You have to opt to be a leader now and to do something about it, and you're leaders. So you're not future leaders. You're either leading or you're not. So you're either a leader or you're not. So do something about it.
So do something about it. I hope you had answered for the second question.
Yeah. So how to achieve financial freedom? Look, if you're always waiting for somebody to allow you to lead, nobody's ever going to give up to give you space. You've got to compete. It's essentially, we have gone back to Hume, nature red in tooth and claw, right? You've got to go back to fighting for your space and fighting for preeminence. Make no mistake. There's this talk of future leaders is designed to keep you down so that you wait for your turn, don't challenge the status quo, don't let the people who are in charge now enjoy being in charge. Your time will come. So anytime you hear you're the future leaders, know that you're being manipulated. And this is something you must, don't call yourself that, don't think you are that. You're either a leader or you're not. And if you're a leader, then do the things leaders do. Make decisions, chart the course, take charge, get used to operating with ambiguity. You must, in order for people to follow you, you've got to appear to know what you're doing. You don't always do, but you must. But wake up every morning, make a plan and execute it. Be a leader. Don't wait to be a future leader. I'll stop there.
Much. So, Mr. John, I hope your question have been answered. Oh, we have a third question, but from Tracy, but we can't answer it right now. We need to move to our next speaker. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, and congratulations with the new baby. It's my birthday as well, so I'm very happy about this. people are calling for a whole summit with you. I think people are enjoying your section. So guys, let's
Thank you.
thank him for this powerful section in the comment section. As we wait for our new speaker, let's thank him for everything he has done. Thank you, sir.
Okay, and please link up on LinkedIn. I'd be happy to continue this conversation. And thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you too. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So guys, we'll be moving on to our next speaker. She is in the person of Dr. Priscilla Chumasi Bafo. Thank you. So Dr. Priscilla Chumasi Bafo, okay, holds a PhD in economics, from the School of Economics, University of Nottingham, United Kingdom. She is currently a senior lecturer at the Department of Economics, University of Ghana. And she is also the role model of our founder, Mr. Raphael Ajaba. Yeah. Dr. Priscilla is affiliated with the Center for Research in Economic Development and International Trade credits in University of Nottingham, African Economic Research Consortium, and the Youth Bridge Foundation. Her research focus is on education and labor markets, gender, international trade, and development economics. She has authored several publications in these areas of specialization. Dr. Priscilla has collaborated and worked on projects with international organizations, including the Swiss Agency for Development and Cooperation, African Economic Research Consortium, International Development Research Center, the International Labour Organization, the Brookings Institution, and Africa Center for Economic Transformation. He periodically contributes to national discourse on the Ghanaian economy and is currently a regular panelist on the BBC Radio Business Matters program. Dr. Priscilla is an avid advocate for diversification and inclusive growth policies in Africa. So guys, let's welcome her, Dr. Priscilla, with all the emojis and the notes and everything in the comment section. I want it in there. Thank you. Welcome, Dr. Priscilla. Thank you.
Right. Thank you so much. Thank you, Ruby. I am very excited to be here, and certainly, I mean, well done, Nyimbi, for that thought-provoking talk. I personally enjoyed it. I was telling Raphael a while ago. So, based on what we've sat through for the past 45 minutes, the topic I am supposed to look at is basically the future of work for African youth. And so how will that future look like? And a lot of the issues, Nyimbi has already indicated a number of them, so I'm not sure I will spend so much time basically on those. But the main message for my presentation this evening is that the global economy we know has changed significantly. And with the onset of the fourth industrial revolution, coupled with issues of climate change, the green revolution, the world of work is also changing very fast in response to these incidences. And so in that context, the world that young people will live in terms of work would be different, quite different from the world of work that we know. And so essentially, what is the world of work we know? The world of work typically we know is a situation where you are offered an employment contract, you go to work within stipulated hours, 8 to 5. If it's a night work, you go 10 to 6, and then you are done. Basically, that is the traditional, typical context for work. And work is changing. And especially with the onset of COVID, we know that remote work is here to stay. And so I'll get into the details of that as I go along. And so the key message, one of them is that the key themes that is shaping the future of work includes automation, digitalization, remote work, and the changing labor market in general. I will hone in on what these mean with respect to, for instance, prospects for young people and how young people should prepare to face that future. So with this context, we also know that policymakers have a role to play because the labor market is changing, and that context is not in the hands of individuals. That has to do with policy. So African policymakers, especially in this context, have a role to play. And what is that role? The role is to support and help train young people to position them to take advantage of emerging opportunities as a result of the change that the world is going through. Young people also have a role to play, and that role is that you must invest in your skill sets. And here I would emphasize on skill sets because the world of work, the future world of work, would not necessarily depend on certification. Nyimbi mentioned the point that, for example, maybe in the future, PhD may not necessarily be the ambition of a lot of people because, for instance, if AI can reason and give you that much level of intellectual output, then what's the point in dedicating 4 or 5 years of your time and doing that? That I believe it's another topic for discussion for another day. And so skills that worked in the labor market in a decade or two ago may not necessarily be relevant in the future of work. And in the future of work, skills that have been identified to be critical would be digital skills and soft skills, for example. I would move into details. And so I indicated when you emphasize on these skills, soft and digital skills, of course, in addition to other basic skills such as what literacy skills, numeracy, those are quite basic. Other skills such as teamwork, emotional intelligence, all those would come under soft skills. But those kinds of skills, you don't really see typical educational systems in Africa teaching young people. But the evidence shows that these are the kinds of skills that will be relevant in the future of work. I have a pyramid which is showing, for example, the demographic distribution in Africa. And you see that Africa it's a very young continent. When you look at with the top, the narrowness that Africans on average do not live that long. And so you don't have a lot of elderly population in the African context. But the base is very heavy, meaning that fertility is quite high on the continent, for which reason we have a lot of young people. The population of Africa is projected to be about 1.4 billion, with over 420 million age 15 to 35 years. And so this figure is even projected to double by 2050. more than 60% of the continent's population is below 25 years of age. And indeed, it is estimated that about 10 to 12 million young Africans join the labor market annually. But the unfortunate thing is that opportunities that open on the labor market annually is just about 3 million. And so you ask yourself, where do about the 9 to 7 million young Africans find jobs? And when you look around, you see that because of the ripeness of informality on the continent, a lot of young people are involved in informal activities to get by. So in the next decade, it is also projected that young Africans who will be entering the labor market would be more than all other continents combined. And the issue really is that if we have a continent that is bursting with so many young people, yet the continent struggles to create opportunities for these young people, then what should be the strategic anchor for policymakers, for instance? But in this forum, I will not delve into that because I believe this is for young people. And when you look at the structure of the African economy, we see that there is evidence that the structure has changed. No doubt, the structure of the African economy that existed 4 or 5 decades ago is not the same as we see. And so we are no longer, majority of the countries are no longer dependent on agriculture as the mainstay of the economy. Times have changed and structures have moved on. And so you see that when you look at the breakdown of where GDP comes from, which is the total value of goods and services that are produced on the continent, now majority of it is through services, not agriculture. In 4 or 5 decades ago, it was agriculture that was dominant. And in economic theory, I will not bore you too much with economics this evening, but essentially, if an economy is at a nebulous stage, an economy is beginning the process of transformation, that is when that economy is really dependent on agriculture. But when an economy has grown and transformed, then you see that the role of agriculture begins to take the back burner for other sectors to take over. But what we also see is that the trajectory that we observe with the developed world, you find that the moment agriculture begins to take this the backstage, you find that industry takes over, and then with time they also mature and move into service activities. But in the African context, we see that agriculture has taken the back burner, but it is service that is at the forefront. That would not necessarily have been an issue if service was generating much needed jobs that are so desired on the continent. Unfortunately, you see that service sector activities are not basically labor-intensive activities. So you find that the issue of the unemployment is quite a big challenge on the continent because of the pattern, the structure with which our economies are changing. When you look at, I have stats that shows that, for example, in Ghana, the service sector in terms of contribution to employment employs about 48% of the total population, of the total working population. And then agriculture is about 34%. And you find that industry is about 18%. When you look at these stats, then it tells you that it is not surprising the kinds of work that people are doing in the various economies in Africa, because as I indicated, informality is quite rife in the service sector. The service sector Those that are at the apex of the service sector are individuals who are highly skilled with an average of a tertiary degree and above. Those are the ones that are highly remunerated in the service sector. You can talk about the financial sector, the IT space, you can talk about logistics, it goes on and on. But when it comes to a chunk of the activities that is occurring in Africa, basically buying and selling and stuff, you find that people are doing very menial tasks in that context. So the nature of the transformation we've seen is the reason why we find that job creation is a major problem. And so how do we tackle this on the continent? There should be a look at the demand and the supply side. The demand side basically would be for government to ensure that there is growth, private sector is thriving to generate jobs. But for this evening, my focus is basically on the supply side, which is the supply side is how do people position themselves to take advantage of the limited opportunities that are coming? And also, how do young people position themselves to take advantage of the evolving nature of work, particularly in the context of automation, artificial intelligence, blockchain, the list goes on and on with the fourth industrial revolution that is occurring. So on the supply side, education and training is critical. Entrepreneurship is key because the formal sector is not expanding and opportunities are coming. And so in that context, we expect that young people would position themselves right. Digital and soft skills are crucial, as I mentioned in this regard. So the future world of work, how does it look like? It's a world of work where automation and artificial intelligence are at the forefront. And we see that when these come in, then we see that automation would replace and artificial intelligence will replace routine tasks, routine jobs. So jobs that are repetitive, jobs that people do that they do not have to think or they do not have to use their mental acumen as human beings. Those jobs stand at a risk of being lost. And so, for example, now when you go to a lot of, for instance, you walk to the banking hall, for instance, a number of jobs are disappearing, but you don't really find it, at least in the African context. But when you go to the developed world, you go to a banking hall, and basically it's just one person who is directing you as to how to use the machines. So you see that all the work of the tellers, a lot of the work that were done by personal bankers, human interaction, all those jobs are being phased out because they are being replaced by machines. And if this is the situation, then it means that this is what makes people apprehensive in terms of embracing technology, because it's a threat. It means that technology is displacing human beings, and that is not good news if you ask. But the issue is that as technology is disrupting and displacing people from routine and repetitive tasks, we also know that the same technology is doing what is creating new opportunities for people. And so there are jobs that exist now that did not exist a decade or two ago. So opportunities are coming. If opportunities are coming, then it means that there is the constant need for reskilling and upskilling for people to adapt to the change. So that even those in the labor market, there is the constant need to be improving yourself. In labor economics, we'll call that lifelong learning. Even when you are on the job, you are constantly learning because you cannot afford to be in a phase where you don't think, for which reason you stand at at a loss when your job is replaced. Also, people should have opportunities to move into new areas when their jobs are taken over, and that is critical. So the potential for also job polarization with the technology is also critical, where in this context, polarization is a situation where we are creating a lot of high-skilled jobs, but you find that low to medium skills jobs are disappearing, right? Low to medium skilled jobs are disappearing. And the reason is that usually low to medium skilled jobs are easy to automate. Machines can easily do that job. For instance, I mean, if it's mowing a lawn, if mowing a lawn, previously laborers were using, for instance, cutlasses to mow the lawn. Now with one mower, one laborer can mow how many acres of a lawn. And so that means that the rest of the laborers who probably were being used before are out of work. And that means there should be opportunity for retraining. Another characteristic of the future of work is remote and flexible work. Remote and flexible work. And this it took center stage, particularly in 2020, at the height of COVID. And so we saw that with COVID, and with technology, people could be at home and work and be equally productive. And so remote work is here to stay. Now people are doing hybrid work. They work remotely for a number of days and they go to the office for a number of days, depending on what they are doing. All these, in a way, although it brings the flexibility in the world of work, there have been issues, and literature indicates that there are issues as to people's mental health, emotional well-being with regards to remote workers, for example. And so work-life balance takes a center stage in this conversation with regards to remote and remote work. Why is this? If you take, for example, a young woman who has motherly responsibilities at home, for instance, if that young woman has a 2-year-old child at home and would have to work from home, you may think that the household may think that so long as she's at home, right, there would not be the need for childcare, for example, because she can supervise. But the reason is that working is different from household chores or household responsibilities, caregiving activities in the home. And the research shows that within the period of COVID, a lot of women came under a lot of stress and were depressed because they were forced to combine work with caregiving activities in the home, and that was difficult. Sometimes we underestimate the price of moving out of the home and having an adult conversation with someone who is not your family member. And so all these are different ways through which people's mental and emotional health are improved upon. But with remote work, there is no way of regulating that unless the worker makes that intentional effort. And those are issues that have come up. Companies are also, with remote work, been offered the opportunity to now scout from a pool of talent from all over the world. And so Microsoft, for example, can decide to hire people from all over the globe, Africa, Asia, Europe, wherever. And so long as the people have the requisite skills, it doesn't matter where they live. And that is also an opportunity that exists, particularly for young people, that in training and equipping yourself, your focus is not only on your local labor market. Now, there's a concept we call global citizens. People are global citizens. So the world is so integrated that now you can live anywhere and work anywhere in that context. But that also, I must indicate, has come with some issues, because most of the times people are caught in the middle with regards to which labor laws must apply to the kind of work they are doing. For instance, if you live in Accra and you work for a company in Singapore or somewhere, then what are the regulations in terms of, and even in terms of working hours? Those are some of the issues that have come up. Then the future world of work is also a world where the gig and freelance economy is thriving. And so people have a lot of freelance contracts where they have short-term contracts, and it is not a long-term contracts of employment, for instance, with necessarily no end tenure until you go on retirement. You get a job as a teacher and you are on the job until any incidents happen and you decide to move. There is no specific deadline to the job you are doing. The future world of work in the gig and freelance economy, that is not the situation, because the jobs come with specific timelines. 1 month to do that, 3 months to do this, and all that. So it brings a lot of flexibility in that context. You can do the gig, and then within the next month, you are free. You don't have to do anything. But then when it comes to income security, and even security for benefits that are associated with employment, a lot of them do not exist in the freelance and gig world. For instance, in a freelance and gig world, if you fall sick, you are not entitled to any health insurance unless you decide to invest in your own health by taking a private insurance policy. And these are things that participants in the gig and freelance world must pay attention to, because it's not every time that you have the agility and you are going up and about. Things happen, and people must consider what would be their living conditions in case of such incidences. And so facilities such as contribution towards, for instance, retirement, social security contributions, do not really exist in these contracts of engagement. And so the responsibility for young people who will be participating or are already participating in this world of work is to take the personal initiative to invest in yourself for the future. And you also see that people have portfolio of careers, workers managing multiple gigs. So in a given 6 months, people will be managing 3 or 4 gigs that are bringing in a lot of money. But the lack of security is that most of the times you see that the incomes that are coming, we would say that they are more of transition incomes, right? Transition incomes, because they are not permanent. The incomes will come in, but until you consistently do what you're doing, even that there are no guarantees that once you are done with this gig, you get another one instantly. And so the responsibility is on the participants to take the initiative to smoothen their income levels and their consumption. So that, for example, if in 6 months you are earning $3,000 in 6 months in a year, you need to sit down and do your calculation and know that it's an average of how much? $500 a month, right? And so based on that, you don't go out spending and living like a king or a queen in the 6 months, and then you begin living like a pauper in the rest of the 6 months. That doesn't exist. And that responsibility of accountability of your time and resources in the labor market is critical in the future world of work. Now, the discussion and national policies are evolving with regards to how governments can come in to safeguard the the lives or to safeguard the livelihoods of participants in the gig economy, because the implications can be quite telling on the whole economy and society as a whole. In the future world of work, there is the need for the future world of work is constantly changing in terms of skill requirements. Skills that are needed today may not be needed in 5 years, in 10 years' time. And so what should young people do to be able to stay relevant? So for example, back in the day, we placed so much emphasis on what? Mental agility, your ability to cram a lot of things into memory and do what? Reproduce them. These days with AI, machine learning, you don't need those kinds of skills. What you need is to be able to interpret, do critical thinking, and make sense of what is there, because a lot of the other things that you do with the memorization and cramming, now AI can easily do that for you. So the responsibility now rests more on the individual to be able to invest in skills such as critical thinking, reasoning, and the soft skills I have already mentioned, and your ability to adapt to the changing context, because the world of work in the future will be very different. Things are constantly changing, and we are always racing or pacing after the evolving technology. And you need to keep up, otherwise you'll be left by the wayside in a sense that if your job is replaced and you don't have any other relevant skills, then you remain unemployed. So lifelong learning and continuous upscaling is necessary, and here educational institutions play a role. But as I indicated, my emphasis is on the individual, which is the young people preparing themselves for the world of work. Then in the future world of work, there is also the collaboration between humans and machines. So as I said, machine learning is there, but there is a limit to what machines can do. And so in that context, that is where the human brain comes. And when this marriage, coordination between humans and machines come together, it increases efficiency, it increases productivity. And so that is essential. But in this same collaboration, that is where repetitive tasks are replaced. And so, for example, Forbes has projected that by 2025, about 85 million jobs would be lost through automation. About 85 million jobs would be lost through automation. And that means that if all these people are losing their jobs, then what alternatives exist for them? And that is why lifelong learning, opportunities for training and reskilling are critical. Then the collaboration between humans and robots, cobots, will also essentially help with the way things are done, particularly in the industrial context. You find that in the manufacturing world, a lot of the processes are being automated. And that means that there is displacement of labor in addition to opportunities that are being created. So if workers are losing their jobs on the factory floor by maybe assembling things, packaging, now machines will be doing that. But that means that the efficiency that is introduced in the production process will lead to a reduction in cost per unit of the item. And that means it can, all things being equal, it will increase demand. When demand is increased, then maybe services of more marketers, services of logistics, services of a whole lot of chain service activities within the value chain of the production will be created. So jobs will be lost in one in one line of the chain, but other jobs are created. And that is how technology is expected to augment our lives and make our lives better. The future world of work is also a place where there is diversity and there is inclusion. So you see that consistently employers emphasize on the need for equity in terms of gender, the need for equity with persons with disability. All these are topical points that have come up, and they would feature quite prominently in the future world of work, where we are all moving towards equity in the world of work. Then sustainability and green jobs. These are also emphasis now. A lot of employers firms are emphasizing on the green economy. Firms are paying attention to the kinds of energy that they are using, their waste products, their carbon footprint. All these are discussions that are going on, that have taken center stage. And in the future, in about a decade or two, these will be very prominent. And even when it comes to consumption and demand, people will be demanding environmentally responsible products from producers. And these are topical. So what then should young people do to be able to take advantage of the unique human skills such as critical thinking? And here I'm focusing on unique human skills, not unique repetitive skills that can easily be replaced by a machine. So critical thinking, problem solving, emotional intelligence, leadership skills, creativity. These are things that will be difficult for AI to replace. And so these are the human skills that we must emphasize on. Learn a tech-related skills, such as AI, how AI works, how it can augment your work and all that. Now there are different opportunities that have come up because of the evolving nature with technology. Embrace them, be willing to learn continuously as a young person, and take advantage of the opportunities that are coming. So here, with all this that I've said, this is evidence that the world of work is changing, and the demand, even in terms of the skill requirements in labor markets, have changed and will continue to change. I have, for example, 10 most sought after skills in 2024. So in the year 2024, based on job advertisements and globally, what are the 10 most sought after skills that are out there? One is artificial intelligence and machine learning, data science and analytics, computer programmers, digital marketing, renewable energy specialists, cybersecurity experts, cloud computing, blockchain technology, engineering, and business analysis. These are the 10 most sought after skills in the year 2024. And as young people, I believe that these are some of the information that should guide you in your career choices and even your choice of what area to specialize in, to position yourself to take advantage of emerging opportunities. And as I indicated, as you are investing your time and your energies in learning a skill or learning a trade, whatever you are doing, whether it's tertiary education, whether it is after secondary school, make sure that the skills are relevant. And in all that you are investing in, we take it that having been through the formal education system, at least in the African context, and particularly in the Ghanaian context, you have some appreciable level of numeracy and literacy skills after secondary education. And with university education, you are positioned above. And so the human skills you need to focus on are the problem-solving skills, the emotional intelligence, the critical thinking, and all these digital skills, especially because you see that the skills that are needed in the world of work is not about certification, that you have a first degree or second degree or a PhD in this, but it is about what you can do. The certification, I must indicate, is still quite critical. So I'm not saying that forget about whatever course you are pursuing and go and learn a skill. No, but you need to marry the two to be able to be marketable in the future world of work. So in concluding, I would say that the future of work offers both opportunities and challenges. That is, it offers the opportunities and challenges to both the worker, the prospective worker, the employer, and governments, which are policy makers. But to young people, the opportunities abound. Yet, it requires a lot of investment in the skill sets that you are entering the labor market with. So invest in yourself with relevant skills, identify your challenges and work on them. Some people have, you know yourself, you know the challenges you have, identify it and work on them. And there's a popular saying that goes, youth is the gift of nature, but age is a work of art. So essentially, when you are young, you are bursting with nature's gifts. And so use it wisely by investing in what is relevant and will position you, make you take advantage of opportunities that are yet to come. So in concluding, continuous learning and adaptability will be the key to thriving in the future world of work. Thank you very much for your time and attention.
Thank you so much, ma'am. If I were to be in University of Ghana, your class would be my favorite. This was very, very interesting and very, very informative. Thank you so much. Guys, listen your thank yous in the comment section. She really needs to know because this section was really, really good. Thank you so much, ma'am. So we'll be taking 2 questions as usual. You can send your comments, or your questions in the comment section, or you can raise your hand and unmute and go ahead with your question. Thank you. 2 questions, guys. And we have a question from Herbert, Mr. Herbert. So the question goes, thank you very much, Dr. Priscilla. Talking about soft skills, please, what is your take on the emerging relevance of having a mastery in 2 or more languages and a fear of the language industry potentially being replaced with artificial intelligence performing similar or the same services? That's a good question. Did you get the question?
Yes, I did.
Okay, thank you so much.
That is a very deep question. I'll try and answer. I'm not so sure, but you are perfectly right. So for example, skills such as transcription, for instance, now when we go to the field in our research work, usually we'll take a tape recording of interviews, and when you come, you hire somebody to transcribe that. Now there are apps that will do that. You put in the recording and you get the written report. The same applies to translation. And so, like I indicated, apps are doing these kinds of jobs. but what would make what you offer differently? And so, for example, as a human being that is offering this service, between now and the time that probably the service will no longer be relevant, you have to give something extra to your clients who use you. And so, for example, you are, what do we call it, translating stuff. But you go a step further to do maybe some, depending on what material you are translating, give some advice, look at projections based on what you have done. Those are the kinds of things that human beings can offer that a machine cannot. And so, for example, when ChatGPT and all these AI came up, it became a very topical discussion on platforms, on how in no time professions such as lecturers, doctors would become redundant because of the technology. People can go on the internet, they can diagnose you and all that. But there is always a human touch to everything. Yes, if lecture slides can be done by AI, I mean, all the better. But what other additions can, for example, can I add that the AI cannot do? Right. So critically thinking and using the resources you got to be able to solve a problem, that is when you are bringing the human aspects and the human peculiar brain that God has given us that the machine does not have.
This
Okay.
was your question answered. Okay, so we move to the next
Hello.
question.
Doc.
Okay,
Right.
Hubert, go ahead.
Okay.
Yes, Doc. Thanks very much, Dr. Priscilla. Please, this is a follow-up to the question I just asked. For
Right.
example, when you talk about the translation, we have the transcription aspect of it. And we also have the aspect whereby you offer services to clients. For example, they have meetings. Let's say there is this language barrier that you have to be bridged. So you come in to be that barrier to them. And I think I have done a lot of researches on this, and I still see AI having its intrusion into this. For example, you offer translation services to conferences, but conferences these days have these automated machines that are able to transcribe or translate these languages into the preferred language of the listener, but
Right.
there is not enough accuracy and all that. But when it is in the sense of human, I think these things are well delivered. So I wanted to know, to be a translator has to go beyond the usual services, but about what you are willing to offer. What are some of the recommendations that you like to catch up with what you've explained now? Thank you.
Okay, Herbert, I think that with what I have explained, I believe that, yes, there are some occupations that would be in the disruptive way of technology. That I must indicate. And so, for example, if translation is being that threatened, and then it's an indicator to you that probably you should look at other options. So like you're saying, you are offering your clients something extra. But even that, the convenience with which the AI would give people, human with all our limitations will not be able to keep up. And so if that is the case, then it means that it is a signal for reskilling and upskilling, in the sense that you need to look at alternative auxiliary opportunities that exist within the space you operate in.
Thanks very, very much, Doc.
Okay,
You're
thank you
welcome.
to Herbert for your question. So move on to our next question from Mrs. Tracy. Thank you very much, Madam. How can one leverage artificial intelligence and automation in this century to achieve financial freedom? What strategies can be implemented to harness potential? Comment. Okay. a potential for personal and community economic empowerment. Sorry, please, did you get the question?
Yes, I did, and I am
Thank you
trying
so much.
to I'm trying to break it down. So essentially, what strategies exist for financial word freedom? I mean, the AI tool gives us boundless opportunities for you to learn, right? Learn a skill, do anything. If, for example, you take the concept of, for instance, influences, right? As I indicated, the future world of work is not too much fixated on your certificates. It is about what you're able to do. If you look at the background, if we were to conduct a study on the background of influencers, you may not necessarily see that the highly educated ones may be the most influential ones. It depends, really. And that is what technology with the digital revolution is helping us do. And so for financial freedom, it means that you are looking at opportunities for earning income. And then once you have earned the income, how are you able to invest it to make sure that you secure that income, if I get you correctly, in terms of financial freedom? And so I believe that the information is out there. I mean, if you ask AI, for instance, to give you strategies on savings, how you can be more prudent with your income, and even learn a skill and work remotely, doing gig activities. Now we have students who are doing online website development, managing people's accounts for them, and they are paid something at the end of the month and all that. They are leveraging on the technology to be able to earn an income. I'm not too sure about the second part of the question. But in all this, we also see a pattern that the digital revolution, if conscious care is not taken, we find that one gender is being left behind. And so these are issues that policymakers, at least in Ghana, will find that conscious efforts are being made to be able to bring everybody on board. Because when you look at financial literacy, financial illiteracy thrives in the midst of illiterate people. And when you look at literacy rates and all that, educational attainment, women are slightly below. And so effort ought to be made to make sure that everybody is brought on board and that people are not just online watching influencers, I mean, eating and sleeping and not doing anything productive or contributing anything productive to their daily lives. I'm not sure if I answered your question, but yeah.
So Tracy, Miss Tracy, is your question answered? You really want to know, so we move on to the next person.
Okay.
Hello. Yes, it's
Okay,
answered.
Tracy, go ahead. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, so
Mr. Raphael, go ahead.
yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Priscilla. It's a pleasure to have one of my role models speak to us today. And I missed this particular voice because it's been a while since I graduated. But I'm going back again, and it's a pleasure to sit in the class again. Thank you so much. We especially give the word of
Thank
thanks
you, Raphael.
and
Thank
show
you
our
for
deep
having.
appreciation. Yes. So I think there's one more question from Ultimate, and then we just end the session and then move on to the next speaker. So she will just ask a question briefly and then we end. I see there are a lot of questions in the chat room. I wish we could answer everything today, but due to
Yeah,
time,
there are
we
lots
have
of
to move on.
questions.
So we just take one more, which will be voiced out, and then we move on. Ultimate, you can go ahead.
So
Okay, I think we can't hear you, Ultimate. Oh, okay, so
Did we get the question from the comment section?
okay, so I think let's just take the next speaker. Thank you so much, Dr. Priscilla, once more again.
Okay, thank you. I'll leave my Twitter handle over here for anyone who would love to connect. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Everybody would love to connect with you, Dr. Priscilla. Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so we move on to our next speaker. The thank you are still coming on. Keep on saying thank you because it's not going anytime soon. Okay, so our next speaker is Mrs. Ivana Victoria Serimola. Sorry, ma'am, I'm really not good. Hope you don't mind, but I will just. This is Ivana Victoria. So Mrs. Ivana Victoria is a pioneering leader in Botswana, recognized for her contribution to the fields of creativity, innovation, and technology. She's the founder and innovative director of EdSmart, an edtech company focused on enhancing STEM education through cutting-edge solutions. With advanced certification from Botswana Innovations Hub and University of Botswana Business Accelerator Program, Madam Ivana has transformed the STEM education landscape in her country and beyond. Madam Ivana is deeply passionate about using innovative educational tools to bridge gaps in STEM education, particularly in underrepresented companies. She is committed to empowering young leaders, especially girls, by making STEM subjects more accessible, engaging, and effective. Through her work with EdSmart, she strives to create sustainable technology-driven solutions that inspire a generation of science enthusiasts. Her I Am Smart board game addresses the persistent challenge of low STEM proficiency among primary and secondary school learners in Botswana and neighboring countries. Despite a growing demand for STEM skills in the global workforce, many students struggle with understanding and engaging with STEM subjects, leading to high failure rates and lack of interest in pursuing further studies or careers in these fields. Additionally, it aims to empower young girls and underrepresented groups in STEM, helping to close the gender gap and promote diversity in science and technology fields. Having attended the Jale, which is the Young African Leaders Initiative, to further develop her leadership skills and gain insights into effective strategies for driving positive change in her community. She hopes to focus more on transformational leadership, which aligns with her vision of creating a lasting impact through innovation solution in STEM education. So guys, let's welcome Mrs. Ivana Victoria. Let's see the enthusiasm in the comment section. Thank you so much, Madam Ivana.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. Am I audible?
Yes, you are. We can hear you perfectly well.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the quite interesting introduction.
Sorry for the name too.
Yes, I kind of get anxious every time my profile gets read because people will be asking me, "Yo, you're so young. How did you get to do that?" I'm quite ambitious, guys. So yes. Okay, great. I'm gonna be speaking on entrepreneurship and economic empowerment for African youth. So yes, I'm an African youth, and yes, I'm an entrepreneur. And having experienced this on the ground, the challenges, the benefits, and everything that comes with entrepreneurship as a young person in Africa, I hope I am the best person to be sharing my insights, my strategies that have worked for me by far. And I hope, most of my experience is really based on the Southern African region because I'm from Botswana and my business is currently operating in Botswana, South Africa, and Namibia. And we're hoping to branch into other countries as well. But we are currently working where we are and where we can reach the people quicker. But with there's this collaboration, I hope we can now extend into West Africa and other parts of Africa. So I look forward to working with you guys. So I'm gonna just be talking about entrepreneurship basically. Why is that important? Why must we get into entrepreneurship as young people? And I'm going to be speaking on that and the importance of entrepreneurship for African youth. So, currently, as a in Botswana, I believe in Southern Africa, the greatest problem we have is lack of employment. And that is always when we talk of African problems that youth are facing. Southern Africa, always the first on the list is unemployment. And it's quite buffering because we have graduates, we have people that have done business, done finance, they have master's degrees, they have degrees, and they are very well vested in these spaces. But they're sitting at home with their degrees and they are calling out to the government saying, okay, we need jobs, we need to work for somebody. And I believe I'm one of the youth that I can say proudly that, of course, I've experienced unemployment for some time before I started exploring other spaces because I'm a chemistry graduate, and being a chemistry graduate in Botswana is quite interesting because when it comes to innovation, when it comes to research department, we are still growing. We are a very small country, only around 2.5, 2.3 million people. And taking things bit by bit. But let's dive into it. What is entrepreneurship? Most of the time, when people talk of entrepreneurship, the first thing that comes to mind is starting a business, creating opportunities, solving problems, driving economic growth, right? But is more to entrepreneurship than just starting a business because entrepreneurship plays the greatest role when it comes to job creation, when it comes to innovation and developing stuff that are innovative and community development. Because every time we overlook these three, job creation, innovation, community development, then we now cut out the part of economic growth in the country and for individuals as well. So entrepreneurship is very key. Like Dr. Priscilla has said, I love what she said. She said entrepreneurship is key and it's vital for Africa. And as an African that believes that Africa can only be built by Africans, I also believe that as African youth, we need to represent, we need to be the greatest number of people that are starting ventures, that are starting businesses, that are entrepreneurs as we speak. Because, like the previous speaker spoke, he said, we cannot say we are the future leaders. The future belongs to those who are holding on to what who are holding on to the future and they are working on it right now, because the future is basically today. It's just a second later and that's the future. So you just need to start working right now, because I believe every second that ticks means I've lost time on building greater things or for the for the upcoming generation. So when we talk of entrepreneurship and representing, we're talking of the path that you take and you look into the broader societal impact as an entrepreneur, as a young person. Okay, fine. I'm in Ghana and I'm in this space. I mean, is it Kwesi? Yeah, I'm in Kwesi and I'm saying, okay, fine. If I'm here, the young people here do not have jobs and they are thinking they are not capable enough to do this to do anything in the entrepreneurial space because they don't have resources. What can I do as a young person to solve this thing? Because you put yourself in a position where you you don't only get into entrepreneurship to get the money for just for personal success, because now you're going to wear out when the business doesn't give you the money that you wished for, the $1 billion that you wished for. You get worn out, you get tired. So when you have social impact and you have community development backing up whatever business you want to do, or something that drives you beyond just the money, then you are building the economic, you're actually empowering the economy, your economy and the society you're living in. So studies have shown that entrepreneurial ventures can significantly reduce unemployment and stimulate local economies, particularly in regions with high youth populations. Youth are very energetic people, and we only need to know how to use our energies for success and for our empowerment. Because according to the Small Business Administration data, it shows that small businesses or SMMEs, they take they create 2/3 of new jobs. And when you think of SMMEs, we're not thinking Elon Musk here. We're not thinking electric cars. We're thinking someone just buying sweets and chips and small drinks and sitting on the side of the road and selling their stuff. Those people are driving our economy as we speak. But as small as it looks, it may seem like, oh, okay, it's only for certain number of people. But where can we start as Africans? We can only get somewhere if we look at the space where we are and what we can do where we are. We start small. I always tell people that you need to always start small, because at one point I was too ambitious, to a point where I was so stuck in my head with big ideas, with AI, with virtual reality. That was the picture in my head. But now, at one point, my mentor told me, come back to reality. What do you have right now? What can you do with what you have? And where can it take you? So that was quite a big step for me, because being a young graduate with the knowledge that I have, with the power I know that AI has, that virtual reality has, I was like, okay, but if I do this, it's gonna be quicker. It's gonna be, it's gonna be quicker. It's gonna impact lives more. And the good thing about me, I wasn't thinking the money. I was thinking impact. I was thinking, oh God, if I do this virtual reality thing, and implement this thing in my country, I would have disrupted the market. I'll be the biggest person they can talk of. But then reality hit, because now unemployment is telling me, if you continue like this, you're not gonna be visible to the people that might give you a job. Number one. Number two, you're not gonna do anything, because you're gonna be there stuck on your head thinking, okay, I need to do this thing, but you can't afford to do the thing right now. So that is where EduSmart came from. EduSmart was I call it a baby of baby steps, because I started off thinking this big idea, which right now as I speak, it is at the beginning stage. But when I started, it was something very far-fetched, but it could have delayed my success, because I was thinking, no, I need to start big so that people know me faster. But do the small grinds. Start from there. Okay, now I'm becoming a motivational speaker. Okay, so let's talk of the current landscape for African youth. How is the entrepreneurial landscape looking like? In the context of Southern Africa, entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs really face these three challenges. Number one, they have limited access to resources. So when we talk of resources, we talk, okay, I don't have enough materials I can use for this, especially in Botswana. When we talk of manufacturing of goods in Botswana is quite low, and I believe other Southern African countries as well. So when you want to develop a product, it takes a while for you to put it together because you need to go to Zambia, check if it's there. Go to South Africa, go check if they have that one. They might have that one, but they may not have that one. Then we need to go online now, check Amazon, and then check the Chinese, and it takes a while. So by the time all those things come together, you probably have used up all your funds because you're not working, the business is not yet generating money. Then you ate the capital that you saved up. Then you need to restart again. So it's quite challenging for um, young African entrepreneurs when it comes to resources. And then number two, with the high unemployment rates, we end up focusing more our emotions, our time on trying to feed ourselves at the time. Because truth be told, most of African youth are coming from households that only survive on their salaries are only there to pay for their rental. Sometimes they can't even afford to pay rental. So by the time you finish university, you're looking at the fact that, okay, my family is looking at me now, I'm a graduate, I need to bring money at home. Or probably some graduate with we call it 2 degrees in Botswana, where you have a baby when you graduate, or you have two babies or three. So now you have a family of your own. Your parents are looking at you because you're now graduating and you need to bring money to the table. So when we talk of that, that is a problem for entrepreneurs because at one point you end up saying, I would rather take this 600 towards my younger brother's education and pause on the business a bit, and then the business goes down, and then you're like, okay, the business is going down, I need to work harder. And that's like continuous continuously adding on your problems because you're unemployed, or probably because you don't have the right amounts to start your venture and your business. And then we have what you call systemic barriers, where now there are other barriers beyond unemployment, beyond access to resources that come with that. So I'll add more on that, but let's look at the good spirit. But beyond all this, we have seen startups growing, other startups growing in before our eyes. We've seen innovative solutions addressing local needs. For example, in Botswana, there's one entrepreneur, a friend of mine, has a company called Ipachi Capital. When he started, I like using his example because knowing him and having seen him grow before my eyes, I've gotten to understand that he is a typical example of an African youth who is in entrepreneurship and faced all these challenges that we talk of. Because that young man, as we speak right now, the business is making him uh, a minimum of 500,000 per month. For me, it's a great deal because it's Botswana. You have a population of 2.3 million, and you're making 500,000 US dollars per month. I mean, that's a big step, right? So now, this young guy, when he started off the business, it looked as if it might not get there. But he kept on grinding. He kept hitting the ground. He kept going. Even though at one point he had kids, he was like, okay, now I have to feed my family. That was a motivation for him. He was like, if I don't do this, there's nothing else I'll ever get. I won't get a job because there are no jobs. I have to think like that. I have to think there are no jobs. Therefore, I need to create this business so that I can create more businesses. And his startup was focused on helping SMMEs grow into now uh, well-registered businesses. So with SMMEs being the forces behind our economic growth and innovation, that was a big a niche in the market where most people were thinking SMMEs are just there selling sweets. But he looked at it in a different perspective. And right now, I would say he's one of the success stories I like talking about. And then the most common story would be of Strive Masiwa, like the founder of Econet Wireless. I mean, he started his vision to bring affordable communication to Africa, but his journey was faced with challenges as well. And he kept his perseverance. He persevered, and he was innovative in his approach, because he ended up transforming the telecommunication sector across the continent. So these stories, they don't teach us only success. They teach us that vision, resilience, and willingness to challenge the status quo is the way to go as an African entrepreneur in Africa. Um, Hopefully I'm on time. Let me keep. I will just say a few more stuff and then I conclude. So let's talk of the components of successful entrepreneurial ecosystem for youth to strive as entrepreneurs. How can we strive? How did I get to where I am? Because first things first, it's education and training. Like Dr. Priscilla mentioned that and said, if you do not develop yourself at this point, there's free education nowadays online. You go online, you get free courses. Continuously use the little time that you have on educating yourself, on training yourself. Because first things first, I have never done um, an entrepreneurial type of course at school. I never did a business course. Before I started my business, I messed up several times. I messed up to a point where at one point I did a very silly mistake of converting money, dealing with different currencies, and I made a big loss that almost killed the business. And if only I had gone online and learned about running a business, dealing with business transactions and all those things, I wouldn't have faced that situation. But that situation made me go sit back and say, okay, girl, you don't understand these things. You need to learn more. You have done a great product. It's okay. You have done a great product. But then now what's next? Because you don't know what you're doing. I had to go back, learn about digital marketing. I need to learn about how financial records. I need to learn about how to get clients and keep clients and all those things. So I started learning on my own online. And then I was like, okay, learning online might limit me. So I need to be in an environment where people are more learned or have an experience on the business space. So now I started applying the Botswana Digital Innovation Hub. I applied, I went there, I learned. I became a child. My mentor usually tells me, if you do business like a child, you want to understand every little bitty thing, then you are bound for success. So I kept that going. And then with education and training, of course, someone might say, I can't afford certain courses. If you can't afford them, collaborate. It's no big deal. It's not good for you to have the greatest idea in the world and you keep it in your house just because you wanna wait for you to get your MBA. And then after getting your MBA, you're like, okay, now I need a PhD. So by the time you finish, somebody else have come up with the same idea. Because I always tell people that I believe ideas come from God, and God would be like, okay, I'm gonna bring this idea to these 5 people, and then we'll see which one will do it. Because I've seen several people say, oh, I wanted to do something like that in 2020 or in 2010, but I didn't do it. What happened? There's nothing that happened, just because they were lazy enough to do more research. So keep learning. You keep learning, keep finding more information. If somebody comes and tells you something new, sit down, ask them questions, learn more. That is the way we grow. And then another point would be funding and resources, right? So you need funding, you need resources. But how do you get to a point where you get funding? Right? So now, when I started my business, I always believed I needed seed capital. I was like, okay, I need someone to give me money so I can do my first prototype. It was a hassle because I'm new in the industry. I've never run a business before, and these people are looking at me like, okay, this child wants to come and take our money and go buy a new car with our money and disappear. So investors and venture capitals do not invest in ideas. It's only when your idea, I don't know, it's been proven before, or it's very rare cases that get their ideas funded. So I always tell people, if your idea can have a lesser version of what you're thinking right now, start there so that at least you have track record, because track record calls forth resources. So now track record is where now you have traction. You have proof to say my concept works. Therefore, if you are to invest in me, I'll be able to move from where I am, which is not point zero, but point one, to move from point one to point 10. And then at point 10, I'll come back again and probably ask for this so that now I can create this VR, this AI, this, that, right? So now with that, you have available financial support because of where you started. Of course, there are grants, there are loans, there are investors, angel investors, and people like that. But I've seen something about angel investors in Botswana. When I started off, I applied for investment from angel investors. And that was like the first week when I just had a prototype. I went for the meeting, and the first thing they asked me was, how many of these products have you sold? And at the time, I was just holding the prototype I've never sold before. They told me, go back, go and sell. Once you sell 5 of them, come back. So that's the mindset you should have. Do what you can right now. Sell. Go back and now ask for more money. Now having proof of concept. We call it human-centered design. Because now, if you don't have human-centered designed products, you are actually designing ideas or your own fantasies in your head. You're thinking of a certain world in your head, and you're creating it for yourself, not for the community. Because we're developing these products, you are not going to be the client. The client is that one person in the street, or someone seated in the classroom, or someone who's listening right now, and they're thinking, but your idea is not really solving the problem that I feel should be solved right now. So you don't want to find yourself creating marvelous looking products that are not solving anything, and people are not even thinking twice when they look at them. So that's one of them. So to get financial support, create products that are human centered, or that have clients, proven clients. Then you'll be able to get grants, you'll be able to get funding, you'll be able to expand on your resources and get that big idea that you wish to have. Number 3, support networks and mentorship. This is a key component for a successful entrepreneur. You need that network, because your network is your net worth. When you have a greatest network, I don't mean president on your network. I don't mean minister of so and so. These people that are in this webinar right now, they are your network. Because first things first, that solution that you're creating might be solving someone's problem right now, or solving someone's aunt's problem right now. And you're thinking, you cannot be an entrepreneur if you don't have a network, because with that network you'll be able to get advice, you'll be able to get guidance, you'll be able to get valuable connections, because my connections is not the type of connections that Dr. Priscilla has or that Raphael has. We have different connections. And at one point, if all these connections were to come into one room like they did right now, and you're saying, okay guys, for me I'm lacking this part, and then Dr. Priscilla comes and says, oh, this is how you solve that, you didn't need to go and get $20,000 for for you to go get training on that part. Dr. Priscilla just gave it to you for free. So that is how it works. And then the last one will be government policies, of course, which is a lot of politics around it. But I think most countries in Africa are coming up. They're coming up with favorable policies and regulations, and these are creating an environment that nurtures innovation and entrepreneurship. And I always say, when we talk of government policies, you need to, in your country, do not be thinking, oh, my government is useless. People have a tendency of hating their government. Well, recently I had a short course in University of South Africa, where one of the facilitators told us, if you're an entrepreneur and you hate your government, you need to rethink your hate, because you need these people and they need you. You have to think it that way. So whatever thing they're doing and they're flopping, you are the one that comes to them and say, okay, I have a solution for you. This is how to solve that, because we are solution bearers. We don't come and be rubbing on their faces that, okay, you are bringing problems and these are the problems that you're bringing, but you're not bringing anything. Governments appreciate it when you come forth and you try to help them develop favorable policies and regulations. So, last but not least, let's talk about my company's role in empowering youth as an African enterprise in Botswana. So with EduSmart, we started off just as a business that develops educational tools in science, in STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics. And then as time went on, we now realized, oh, okay, we are in this space, but there is actually a deeper root. There's a root problem to why people actually fail or underperform in STEM. And one of those problems would be like a lack of actually finding the root problem of why I'm failing. For example, if I'm a learner and I go to class every day in Botswana, my teacher comes in front and be like, okay, this is what we're going to learn today. This is magnetism. Magnetism goes like this, and then they go. That's the only information I got from them. But then I have a problem of grasping information quicker. But then at the end of the week, I would have gotten 6 topics overloaded on me. So we said, okay, now we need to diversify. We need to move into the current technological tools and digital tools that are being used, and we can integrate that into the olden ways or traditional ways of learning, and develop tools that will be able to help these young people to learn everything in general, but specifically sciences and technology, science, STEM subjects. So that was the digital tool. That was the bigger picture. So we started off small with board games. We moved on to other tools, and then now we're doing the digital device. So basically, with EduSmart, we are an emerging company in EdTech in Botswana. And so far, we've worked with University of South Africa. We have clients in South Africa as well. One of them is Oceans Private School, and we are now working with other schools in Botswana, where now they are not only our clients, but we are working with them as partnering organizations, and that includes the University of Botswana as well, where now we look at the issues that young people are facing. So when we talk of women in STEM have a tendency of saying, oh, this industry is dominated by male, by men. Therefore, if I'm to apply for a job at B3, I'm going to end up probably being their fifth option. So we encourage, we empower, we motivate these young people such that their researches, their works are seen by the country, because we are working together with the University of Botswana Innovation Center, where these young people can now come forth with their ideas in STEM, and we help them develop prototypes from scratch, and then they go through the human-centered design process, and then from there we go to market. Then from market they can now start looking for funding. So that is how EduSmart is currently empowering youth, African youth, or entrepreneurs in Africa. And we hope to work with more organizations, NGOs, and others to inspire more women in STEM. Okay, I think I've said a lot, but in closing, I would say I've said quite a number of points, and
Yes.
these are all.
You have.
Hello, hello.
Yeah, we
Is
can hear
anybody
you,
there?
Miss Ivana. Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, so in closing, I would say I would charge you to start where you are, because a business idea can only become a good business idea when it's on the ground. Because when it's in your head, it's all fantasies. It's all, oh, I want to see a world like this. But you'll be shocked when you now start putting it into the ground, that it transforms into this new gold trophy you've never seen and you didn't even imagine, because when you take it to the market, it gets more pruned, it takes more shape, and more people start appreciating it even more, right? So go out there, start where you are, utilize what you have, and utilize your friends, because that's your network as well. If they know how to develop items, if they know how to use AI, use them. Because I always tell people, if you have the friends that know how to, that have these skills, if they don't want to do stuff for you for free, learn from them. Take time to learn. If it's 2 months, 3 months, take time to learn, so that you can be able to run your ventures and your businesses better and with more experience. So, with that being said, um, I think I'm done. Yes. Thank you for the
Thank you
opportunity.
so much, Miss Miss Ivana Victoria. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Guys, we are going to be taking one question. I think we are far behind time. And you can put your question in the comment section, or you are mute and then we go ahead. Oh, there's a question already from Mr. Ultimate. So the question goes: as a South African youth juggling multiple roles and acquiring diverse skills, we often find ourselves facing challenges in securing employment, with companies citing affordability issues. How can the government better support young entrepreneurs looking to start their own businesses and elevate their opportunities for success in the business world? Um, please, did you get the question?
Can you please go again?
Okay, so the question goes: as a South African youth juggling multiple roles and acquiring diverse skills, we often find ourselves facing challenges in securing employment, with companies citing affordability issues. How can the government better support young entrepreneurs looking to start their own businesses and elevate their opportunities for success in the business world?
Okay, I hope I got
The
it.
question is in the comment section, so you can still refer to it.
Okay. Okay, so when we talk of Southern Africa, I'm going to always refer to my country, which is Botswana. And I hope this will also help to, okay, maybe help your government come up with schemes like that. Because when you come to Botswana, first thing first, the most trending thing when it comes to the entrepreneurship ecosystem is that the government has opened that, has given people that. Because right now we have initiatives in place where our government has tried a lot to now help young people build businesses at different stages. Because when you talk of the business, the entrepreneurship ecosystem, there's levels to it. There's an SME, and then from there is um acceleration, there is those stages, right? You can't fund them the same way. You can't come to me as an idea stage and expect to be given, say, for example, $500,000, we will not be making an educated decision on that, because now our government has created initiatives where now you can get funding as an SME, or you can get funding as a ready to accelerate, or an accelerating business, or a startup, and different stages like that. So basically, the government can now create such policies or such initiatives. Now, these initiatives, most of the time, yes, of course, they are deemed as from the government, but the government partners with other organizations as well, where they fund these type of initiatives. For example, I know of the Standard Chartered Bank, where they develop people from the idea stage to the ready for market stage. So basically, if the government is to now sit down and say, we know we have unemployment, but if we now create opportunity for funding, or opportunity to grow, to be ready for funding, then we'll be able to now bridge the gap of unemployment. Because with these businesses that are coming up, at least 2-3 of them might be able to employ 10-5 people. It's reducing the now. We can't create employment in one day. That's not going to happen. But we can at least start somewhere. One business employs 5 people. It's an SME. This one is ready to accelerate now. This SMME has created more traction in the past 5 months. Therefore, if we add more people, if we get 10 more people into the business, then it will accelerate now to be called a startup, right? So if it's a startup, and this startup needs more offices, it needs more resources, then that means we need to put more money for them to be able to expand to that stage. So it's basically working on the country's initiatives and policies that are in place to help young people. Because if you focus on the young people, we are actually the highest population in Southern Africa. The highest population in Southern Africa is young people. Therefore, if you focus on young people, then you're focusing on the future. So the young people get access to funding or access to training, preparing them for funding, then that's a start. So I believe that is how we can do this one. Because if we now look at ourselves as, okay, we're young people, we have the skills, we are well qualified, but these companies can't afford us. The government should also look at that. Yes, of course, they can't afford. They're telling the truth that they can't afford you. You are too expensive, and you're way too learned for you to be at that stage. They're basically telling you, you might as well be in my position as an employer. So think it that way, that okay, if they can't afford me, then I can be able to do what they're doing. So probably make it even better. So yeah, I hope I answered your question.
Thank you so much, Miss Ivana. I'll hand over to my co-moderator, Ruby, to take over. So, Ruby.
Thank you so much, Ashika. Thank you so much, Miss Ivana. That was very profound. That was very enlightening. I really took a lot of tips from you, and I'm definitely going to pay heed to all what you said. Now moving on to our final speaker, who is in the person of Miss Imaline Date. I'm just going to go straight and then read her profile. Time is fast spent. Sorry for, the time and everything. So, Miss Imaline Date is a public speaker, brand influencer, HR strategist, leadership, and personal development coach, German to Africa's German to Africa startup consultant, as well as an events consultant. As an HR strategist with up to 13 years to human resource general practice, She has had experience within several industries, including aviation, oil and gas, academia, media, wellness, fashion, medical laboratory, supply chain, and manufacturing. She's the founder and CEO of ICS Africa Limited, that is Impact Concepts and Solutions Africa, a budding Pan-African company that provides management consulting, personal and professional development, marketing and communications, as well as corporate event engineering and management services. She is also the founder and lead blogger of a digital platform called the Fearless and Fabulous Network, where she inspires women in leadership, faith, love, and career, personal growth, as well as promotes exceptional women globally. Additionally, she is the director for West Africa Female Leaders and Entrepreneurs Network, an African community of female leaders in business. Imalin chartered as a professional in PHR in 2014 with the Human Resource Certification Institute USA and possesses a first class degree from the Valley View University in Human Resource Management (VBA) and an advanced international human resource management diploma in 2023. She also bagged a certification from John Maxwell team as a certified speaker, trainer, and coach in August 2021. Himalene has been honored as one of Ghana's 100 most influential women in 2017, one of them, one of the top 100 speakers in Ghana 2018, one of the 2020 50 most influential young Ghanaians, a 2022 Ghana 20 a 2022 Ghana 25 Under 25 Mentor Awards in HR and Business Consulting, a Visionary African Woman Award recipient in 2023, and a 2023 Woman of Color Creating World Internationally awardee. She has been further listed among the ELOY Foundation and African Women CEOs Network 50 power people who embody resilience, leadership, and advocate for women's empowerment and inclusion in Africa in 2024, and a recipient of the 2024 International Women Peace Awards. Please, with our welcome messages, reactions, let us welcome Miss Imalin Dati and get inspired from her. Thank you so much.
Hello, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, please, we can. Welcome once again, Miss
Thank you
Imalin.
very much. All right. So, I was actually on the call with Elle, and we're supposed to move to tomorrow because of time. But since I've been introduced, I may do justice to my presentation. I want to say and pay my highest regards to my colleagues who have done an excellent job in the delivery of their presentations, and I hope to crown it up in style. So Leadership 2050, we are preparing you for 2050. And as part of the plan, to have you all be prepared for future, which is you, we are going to learn how to connect volunteerism and leadership. The attributes, these are the two attributes we are looking at developing in the African youth. As a youth mentee myself, I ran a mentorship program for the youth called Level Up Africa. And the reason why I did this is because I'm playing my part in filling in the gap of our leadership challenges. There's really nothing much we can do about the leaders we have now, but we can do something about the ones we have tomorrow. And so the focus is more about you. You are the hope that Ghana has. And I, in playing my part, want to ensure that you are ready to take on the task ahead of you. Volunteerism and leadership are vital for the growth and development of African youth, undoubtedly. Hence, connecting both volunteerism and leadership would equip you as an African youth with the tools you need to drive social change. You're having a lot of issues in Ghana. Galamsey, and many other issues that are going in the country. Promote sustainable development and build a brighter future for yourselves as youth and our community as a whole. These are the things that we're hoping our leaders to do, but unfortunately lacking in it. Connecting to Kwame Nkrumah's desire for Ghana and the long-term Africa, we are lacking leaders who actually believe in the Ghanaian dream. And we believe that developing you all for the Ghanaian dream or for whatever country you belong to, and I know not only Ghanaians are on this platform, we have people from other African countries. So you are the hope of your country. Whatever leader you had that started doing something positive, you're supposed to continue so that Africa can be the continent that it's supposed to be. Now, as an African youth, why should you join any volunteer organizations? What is the importance? What will it help you do? One, community support. You are able to provide essential services to your communities. I see there are some young people who actually, do a lot of cleaning exercises. Some people do free painting. Some people go to teach for free. The government can't do everything alone. And so as a young person, volunteering actually helps you to provide support to your community and create the change you want. Obviously, when you involve yourself in impact, you grow personally. You develop yourself, find yourself a new sense of far from depression. You are not stressed out. You're living a fulfilled life. And obviously, you get social connections, networking. You gain social capital. I inspire the youth and I tell them, learn to grow, shadow for growth, don't shadow for money. Look for influential people. People are making a difference in your community and work with them for free. I tell you, whatever they are climbing, you will definitely climb with them. It empowers you. You obviously, your community is sustained, and then you are a change. You become what we call an ambassador for positive change in your society. That is why volunteerism is a very smart way. If you, there are young activists, young, volunteers outside the shores of Africa and Africa doing great things. You can also do the same. Leadership, obviously, we know helps you to develop your skills. It makes you ready for the future, preparing you for, and empowers you, helps you to make decisions, take initiatives, and influence positive change in your society. So that being said, you really cannot take advantage of volunteerism and taking on leadership positions or roles. I see sometimes young people run away from, certain opportunities. But I'm here to tell you that is not true. You can, and you will, and you must. What are the traits you must exhibit? Integrity, empathy, resilience, and vision. For you to be like, our late Kofi Annan, for you to be like a certain Kennedy Odede, Yvonne Akisoya, Aya Chebi, Nelson Kwaje. These are African leaders in volunteerism. You can research about them. You can get, I'm sure you will get the manual and then the training manual, and then you'll be able to research about them more and learn about them. If you find their pages on social media, follow them on Facebook and on LinkedIn and learn about what they are doing. The easiest way to develop yourself as a leader is to shadow somebody else who is working on the path of leadership. Now, how do we connect volunteerism and leadership? Communication, teamwork, problem solving, time management, empathy and emotional intelligence, project management, adaptability, leadership and initiative. These are the attributes needed to be able to connect volunteerism and leadership. Now, in spite of all this, we do have challenges when it comes to, volunteerism. Many people supporting, but they don't get the kind of support that they need. Probably their parents don't want them to do it. They don't have mentors, no guidance, no resources. But thank God for NIS, thank God for Raphael and the team, don't have an excuse after today. Some young people cannot balance work with school, so it becomes very difficult for them to involve themselves. Some people too don't like the paperwork involved in, applying for an NGO. It becomes very difficult, so they run away from it. Yeah. People also feel that they're not being recognized for what they do. They support some NGOs and nobody cares about them. And a lot of young people too also don't know about the opportunities available. We have the projects under the UN Mastercard Foundation. We have what got the AWE. Sorry, what's it called? CAMFED for women. Yeah, so many of them. That you can check them out. Trust issues. Some of young people don't trust organizations, in volunteerism because of some stories they've heard. And then obviously they don't also understand how being a volunteer can impact their skills. So these are the challenges. But how do we solve it? Be part of a mentorship program. I'm inviting you to join Level Up Africa. Raphael is part of it. He's a mentee of mine and he's part of my program. And we support him. He does, mentor him. He can call at any time, provide the support he needs. And I'm sure many of the speakers here too are also fellow mentees of his. You all should have a mentor. And then you can also have a peer mentor, people who are your colleagues, but then they have gone further than you. They are involved in the kind of project, volunteer projects. Learn from them. Some of these things give you scholarship to travel around the world. You do a lot of mission work and it makes you so fulfilled. You don't even have to have some things you don't even pay for, all expense paid. But you need to learn to start small and then you get there. You can also begin advocacy. Speak up. Speak about how, the youth should be encouraged, in volunteering services, and then we the funding and grants available for young people. Can explore it. It does exist. And obviously, go on their social media pages because some of them have created awareness and information campaigns. Check them out on social media and see how best you can join them and be part of something that is what? Noble. Finally, I'm going to recommend 6 NGOs. I've already spoken about Level Up Africa, but Level Up Africa is not an NGO per se. It's just a youth organization. Even though, yes, we do, what we're doing is charity. We don't charge for what we do. But we have partnered with the National Consortium for Voluntary Organizations Ghana. If you join us, we connect you to them and we'll assign you to a volunteering organization. We have the African Youth Volunteer Corps. We have the International Volunteer HQ. We have Africa Impact, Connect 123, and Volunteer Abroad Alliance. So you can research on the rest of them online and find out how you can be part of them. Undoubtedly ways to develop your competencies and put yourself in demand. They open you up to endless possibilities and opportunities you would never have imagined. More so, volunteerism and leadership are very important for empowering the next generation of the African youth, which is you. Days, I don't see why you cannot find yourself on a different level. After these 3 days, you are the leader we are ready for. You are the next MP, you are the next senator, you are the next change maker, the next president of your country that we are looking out for in 2050. And by the grace of God, your mentees are here, will be alive to cheer you on and provide you the support that you need to take Africa from ground zero to being simply the best. Thank you so much for your time. God bless you.
Thank you so much, Miss Imaline. That was very brief but very concise. Please, if there are any further questions, we will take just one for now. But if there are more than one questions, you can text it to the chat room and we will send it to we will forward it to Miss Imaline and we will get you the answers. For the sake of time, yeah, thank you. Please, any questions?
I think I will drop my email address to me. Any question or anything they need, and we'll take it from there. I know everybody is tired and then probably. So I've sent my email address. You can just follow me. Someone said there's a question. Okay. What's the question? Ultimate? Dr. Jenny, I see you. Rejoice asked the question. Okay, let's go and look for. Okay, are there any restrictions when it comes to volunteering, especially when joining non-governmental organizations? So NGOs and they are just like a profit business. So when you get there, I can't really say because it's unique to each organization. But they will have their laws or their what we call rules and regulations, their policies. They will align you with it. And if it's something that favors you, obviously, yeah. Some NGOs are religious, so definitely they will have some restrictions in that area. But for those that are non-religious, then they will definitely take you through their policies. So Rejoice, feel free, please join. All of it is compulsory. You must join an NGO. Very compulsory. It's gonna take places because of giving you more nuggets. But trust me, volunteerism have taken people where their monies couldn't take them, where they are coming from nowhere, and today they are somebody. Some of you here can be advocates. That's how to start. Advocate for something. Advocate for something you're passionate about. Use your social media handles to do it. Okay? And then become the voice that Africa needs. Form a youth consortium and speak on behalf of the youth in your countries and let the government know that you are interested in pushing the agenda of the young African. You can all do it. I believe in all of you. All can do it. Thank you, Rejoice, for that great question. Okay, Emmanuel, I actually did. I mentioned a few NGOs. I will send, Raphael will email my presentation to you all, and then you will look at the list of NGOs I have shared. But I mentioned MasterCard Foundation, CAMFED, the UNFPA Fellowship Program, of course, Level Up Africa. If you join us, Level Up Africa will connect you to a lot of NGOs, the one that you want. And then I think I mentioned a few other NGOs, I think Connect 123, Africa Impact. Yeah. So see Raphael if you're interested and it will do justice to you. Thank you very much. Guys, it looks like NGOs are more interested in women. No, apparently not. I thought so too. So my company, NIS Africa, has a program we do NGOs in Africa. My goodness. I never knew we even have NGOs for wildlife, for animals. It's not true. It's because that is all we see. That is all that it makes the news. Okay. The media projects more of women and youth NGOs, but that is not true. We have NGOs, we have medical NGOs, we have what we call Doctors Without Borders. They do free surgery. They travel around the world and give free surgery. Okay. And we have a basketball, and is it National something Basketball Africa? Yes, a basketballer has some to promote youth in basketball. Mr. Easy has one for encouraging, I think, young creative people. Yeah, there's many of them. We have the ones that give, I think, the support schools and all of that. And many of these NGOs are not headquartered in Ghana, but they have branches in Ghana, Kenya, Nigeria, and other African countries. So look for top 50 NGOs in Africa on Google. You will see our list of a lot of NGOs, that exist. So please, we don't have only for women. Thank you for that great question, Maxwell. Okay. So I'd have to go. I put food on fire. I have to run and continue cooking before I get it burnt. But it was a pleasure being with you all. Please feel free to connect. Feel free. My LinkedIn, okay. My LinkedIn is my name, Emalindate. Instagram, Imativator. If you all list on Instagram, I'm very active there too. I'm all there. And then Facebook is Coach Emma. Right. So thank you all. I love you. Have a fantastic weekend. God bless you.
Thank you so much. Thank you
Yeah,
so much.
yeah. Oh yeah, okay. So thank you so much, Mr. Berlin. It's a very, very, very good pleasure to have you still speak at the session. And I must say that Mr. Berlin has been a great mentor to me, and she has really helped me so much in a very distinct way. And then also Dr. Jennifer Duncan Nububi has been a very, very good mentor to me as well, and she has really helped me so much. And these are the personalities that have shaped the vision that we carry today. And I told you that you won't want to miss any platforms that you're going to get for which you can join to be part of what you're doing. So as part of what we have for you, as packages for you as well, the certificate is just one thing that goes with it. We're also going to give you the opportunity to get to connect with fellow networks with Mr. Malindati, then also Dr. Genevieve Duncan. So we'll be sharing this networks with you via email. So you have the chance to join Level Up Africa for free without paying anything, and also be part of the Terragon Edge Students Network without paying anything as well. If you know other people that you truly know would benefit from this network as well, you can do all the share as well to them and give them a chance to be part of the impact. I want to say a very big thank you to my moderators for today, Ashika Wanta Hamid, and then also Ruby Ampofo. You've done an exciting and marvelous coordination today, and I really loved what you did. And a big thank you to all our speakers for today. We truly appreciate every one of us every one of all our speakers that spoke today, Mr. Nimbi Odiro, and then Ms. Ivana Seramola, and Dr. Priscilla Trumesi, and finally, our mommy, Ms. Malindati. We really appreciate you all. Thank you so much. And to the audience, and still here today, making the Leadership 2050 Summit lively. I want to see some emojis in the chat room to show that you're still here with us. Thank you for your time. Thank you for being with us. It's more than 3 hours for today's session, and you still stayed till the end. You are amazing. NIS Webinars loves you so much, and we appreciate you. Tomorrow happens to be the last day, and you don't want to miss the last day. It's going to be super powerful. And tomorrow, we're going to have our chief mentor, Dr. Genevieve Duncan Ubobi, speak to us. And we're also going to have other speakers tomorrow and our final speakers for the Leadership 2050 Summit, the episode 2, that is the 2.0 version of it. See you tomorrow, God willing. And thank you so much for being through to the end. So updates will be shared via the page, and this link would be the same link for tomorrow. Thank you. So before we end the session, we want to say in the chat room, thank you so much, Mr. Malen. Mention any speaker you remembered today and say thank you to them. We'll be taking some shots of all of this as we end the session. And finally, it's time for networking. I know some of you missed the networking session. You want to put in the chat room your name and where you're joining in from, and then possibly your contact, and then also what you do. So you get to network with somebody who may be interested in whatever you're doing. So I'll put in mine first, and then you can also keep on the flow. So we are done for today, and the next thing is networking. Thank you.